Bonjour Year 9, welcome to week 2 of online French. So we're going to start with looking at a little bit about what we did last week. If you missed last week's lesson or any of the 2 previous lessons, please email me. This is Mrs. Cunningham, so my email is rcunningham@johnfernley.org. So we looked at numbers up to 100 and telling the time last week. That's what I wanted you to learn in your fact book. So as a reminder, we got to imagine in our head 2 clocks. And the first one tells us the closest hour, and the second one tells us how many minutes after or before the hour we are. So for example, il est 9h20, it is 9:20, literally it is 9 o'clock and 20 minutes, 9:20. 9h moins 20 is 8:40 because it's 9 o'clock minus 20 minutes. 9h moins 20. 9 o'clock minus 20 minutes is 8:40. So I left you working on this activity where you had to fill in the time in French and then translate the sentence into English. Thank you for those of you who've sent examples of your own work that you've done as well. That's brilliant. And here's your answers, those of you who haven't sent me any work to look over, so you can mark it yourself at home. Just pause that as long as you need. Today we're looking at questions. So we've already done about nouns and numbers. Email me if you need any work sending to you about those two. Today we're looking at questions. So very simply to begin with, I want you to look at these questions that we've learnt in year 7 and 8 and match them to an answer that makes sense. I'm just getting you used to what questions look like in French. So pause the screen here and match up a question to an answer. Those are your answers. I won't go through them all because we know, hopefully, this vocabulary. I just want you getting used to what questions look like in French. If you can, if you've got somebody you can practice with out loud, or maybe just talk to yourself, make yourself look crazy, practice out loud saying these questions. Comment tu t'appelles? Quel âge as-tu? Tu habites où? Il y a combien de personnes dans ta famille? Tu as un animal? Quelle est ta couleur préférée? Qu'est-ce que tu fais pendant ton temps libre? Quelle est ta matière préférée? That will get you used to the sounds and the look of French questions. And you could give an answer if you've got somebody to practice with. So, just like in English, there's 2 types of question. You can ask an open question and a closed question. Closed question just has a yes or no answer. An open question is looking for specific information from a whole choice of different options. And we're going through this today because the French exam for GCSE is worth 25% of your overall GCSE, and I must add now that you do it with your teacher, not a random stranger that comes in. Your speaking exam is face to face with your teacher. Okay, so it's not quite as scary as you might think. You're going to be asked to understand quite a few questions and ask at least one of your own. So let's look at how you make questions in French. Don't worry, I know it looks like a lot of information, but once you've got your head around it, it's easy. So there are 3 ways to ask questions which require a yes or no answer. You can literally write the statement and put a question mark at the end. So, tu aimes le français? If you put a question mark on the end, it becomes tu aimes le français? Do you see how I raised my voice at the end there? So that becomes a question. Do you like French? That's the easiest way. The formal way is to swap around the verb and the subject. The subject's just a fancy word for the person. So rather than tu aimes le français, it's aimes-tu le français? And you put a hyphen in the middle. The only thing to be wary of here is if the verb ends in a vowel. This one doesn't, this verb ends in an S. But if the verb ends in a vowel and you want to ask the question of il, elle, or on, he, she, or we, you need to put a t in the middle just to make it nicer to say. French people don't like the sound of aiment-ils le français? They prefer aiment-ils le français? It just flows nicer. The third way of asking a yes-no question is to put est-ce que at the start of the sentence. Est-ce que more or less means do or does. So, est-ce que tu aimes le français? Literally, is it that you like French? Do you like French? And the only note you got to be worried about here, but I'm saying worried, but if you get it a bit wrong, it's okay. I'm just trying to teach you perfection here. You change est-ce que to est-ce que with an apostrophe. So, est-ce qu'il aime le français, rather than est-ce qu'il aime le français. Okay? Have a pause there and read through that information if you need to go through it again. Otherwise, try this next activity. So, we've got the same question 3 times in a row, but I want you to change it so that it's either the version where you change your tone, the version where you put the verb first, or the version with est-ce que. You've got to fill in the missing gaps in this table. You might feel more confident using one way rather than the other, but you need to be able to understand all 3 when you're being asked questions. The first challenge, if you can, is to then translate the questions into English, and the second challenge is to think of one other question and write it out using these 3 different styles. So this is how I want it to look. Es-tu d'accord? Est-ce que tu es d'accord? Changes to tu es d'accord. So we've swapped these 2 round and we've taken out the hyphen. So try fill in these other gaps. Answers are following now. So, this top row means do you agree? The second row should be tu as faim, as-tu faim, est-ce que tu as faim? All means are you hungry? Parle-t-il français? Look, we've got a bonus te in the middle. We don't need that in the other 2. Il parle français and est-ce qu'il parle français? Does he speak French? All 3 mean the same thing. It's just 3 different ways of asking the question. And fine, next one. Tu t'entends bien avec ta mère? T'entends-tu bien avec ta mère? Est-ce que tu t'entends bien avec ta mère? Do you get on with your mum? If you've made a little mistake here, it doesn't matter so much. If you put the apostrophe slightly wrong, got your spelling a tiny bit wrong, it doesn't matter, as long as more or less the question follows the same example. And finally, elle aime aller au cinéma. Aime-t-elle aller au cinéma? The te is important to get perfection, but if you've forgotten it, don't worry so much. So this last row means, does she like going to the cinema? Give yourself a score out of 7. Now, questions with specific answers, so we're looking at part 2 now. These require a question word. And I've given you a list there to learn in your fact book. Quand, pourquoi, où, qui, comment, and quoi. There are 3 ways of asking a question that requires an open answer, sorry, but they look really similar. So, questions for specific answers. Number 1, easiest way. Change your tone of voice and put the question word at the end. Tu habites où? Where do you live? Literally, you live where? So you just put the person, the verb, and the question word. Except, sorry, pourquoi is the only question word which needs to go at the beginning. The others you put at the end, but pourquoi has to go at the beginning. Pourquoi tu aimes le français? The formal way is to put the question word first, and then swap the verb and the person, and put a hyphen in the middle. So don't they look really similar to the yes-no ones? Just slightly different because we're having to fit in a question word. Où habites-tu? Where do you live? And sorry, quoi becomes que for some reason. So rather than quoi fais-tu le weekend, it's que fais-tu le weekend. Finally, we can use est-ce que. Question word, est-ce que, person, verb. Question word, est-ce que, person, verb. Est-ce que is replacing do or does. So, où est-ce que tu habites? Where do you live? The only note to make sure you remember quoi plus est-ce que get squished together to make qu'est-ce que. Qu'est-ce que tu fais le weekend? What do you do at the weekend? Rather than quoi est-ce que, it squashes together to make qu'est-ce que. The other ones just go question word, est-ce que, person, verb. Okay? Just as before, I want you to try and fill in this table using those patterns we've just seen. If you need to go back and look at the video again, please do. I want you to fill in those missing questions. Try as a challenge to write them in English, and you could also try and think of another question that you could put into 3 different versions yourself as well. Answers to follow. Here we go. Quand vas-tu à la piscine? Tu vas à la piscine quand, and quand est-ce que tu vas à la piscine? When do you go to the swimming pool? Next one. Pourquoi déteste-elle? With an extra t sound in the middle. We don't need that in the other 2. Pourquoi elle déteste les maths? Remember, pourquoi goes at the beginning always. And pourquoi est-ce qu'elle déteste les maths? If you've forgotten to put Q-U'-L, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. As long as you've got more or less the question word, est-ce que, and then the person and the verb. Finally, nous mangeons quoi? Que mangeons-nous? Remember, quoi becomes que, annoyingly. And then, qu'est-ce que nous mangeons? Not quoi est-ce que nous mangeons, qu'est-ce que nous mangeons. Tricky stuff. That's what I want you to be practicing in your fact books. So going back to the questions we did right at the beginning of today's lesson, which of these here is a yes-no question? What makes it different to the others? Just have a read through. Pause it if you need to, because I'm going to tell you the answer. Number 5. There's no question word. Tu as un animal? Do you have an animal? You could give a yes or no answer. The rest of them have got question words in them. This is a new one. Quel, which. And combien is also a question word. How many? So number 5 is the exception because it's a yes-no answer. Notice how sometimes, I did this on purpose, I've written quel âge as-tu? Sometimes I've written it in this way, tu habites où? Sometimes I've written it this way, question word, person, verb. So I've mixed up the different ways of asking questions. So give yourself a score total for the questions. And there is some independent study you could do. So for more practice, the BBC Bitesize website has a whole section on practicing French questions. I put the QR code too in case it worked. I wasn't sure it would over a screen, but see whether that works. And finally, here were our objectives. To form closed and open questions using your tone of voice. To understand closed and open questions. And then to use closed and open questions. Your bonus to think about this week, it's not a must, it's just an extra challenge if you want it. You could look up when you need to use tu and when you need to use vous in French, and then you could summarise that information in a table or a diagram. There's explanations on YouTube if you want to have a look at those. And that's it from me this week. So if you have any questions or any work you want to send me, please do. And this is Mrs. Cunningham. My email address is rcunningham@johnfernley.org. And I'll speak to you next week. Au revoir!